The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this educational webinar presented by United Network for Organ Sharing for UNOS ambassadors, our community volunteers. Today's topic, what you need to know about public comment. What is public comment? How does it shape transplantation policy? And why is it important for you to get involved? Presenting our topic today, James Alcorn is with us. He is Senior Policy Strategist here at United Network for Organ Sharing. My name is Lisa Schaffner, also with UNOS. I'm the Public Relations and Marketing Director. Just a few housekeeping items before we get to the actual presentation. Now, today's webinar allows you to hear and to see the PowerPoint presentation. All microphones are muted. That's going to prevent any type of feedback. But if you would like to ask a question, you can do so, and you can do that by typing it along the right-hand column in the questions section. Right-hand column in the questions section. All questions will be answered at the end of our presentation today, which will be somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes in length. If you are experiencing a technical problem, you can also let us know that by typing again that information or your question in the questions section on the right-hand portion of your screen. This educational webinar is being recorded and will be available later this week on the UNOS website, that's unos.org, located on the Ambassador landing page. It will also be available in the private Ambassador Facebook group. Immediately following today's webinar, you will receive a pop-up asking you to take part in a very quick 4-question survey. Thank you in advance for the generous feedback that we know you'll be giving us. United Network for Organ Sharing is pleased to share with you public comment and public participation in policy development, presented by UNOS Senior Policy Strategist. Joining us now, James Alcorn. James, hi, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you inviting me to talk with the group today. I'm looking forward to our conversation this afternoon. As Lisa mentioned, she asked me to join you all today to talk about public comment and public participation in the policy development process. So there's a few different things that I'd like to go over with you today. Just as a way of background, I've been with UNOS for about 6 years or so, and I've been involved in policy development my whole professional career at UNOS and previously in governmental actions with the state of Virginia. Today, what I want to talk about are a few different things, but ultimately it comes down to how you, as members of the public, and specifically transplant patients, can be involved in the policy development process here at UNOS, and all of the different ways that we invite public participation, but also really the value of that public participation in the policy development process.
All right.
So before we begin, I always like to kind of just to level set with folks about how policy development works here at UNOS. We have a 10-step approach to policy development. I'm not going to go through all 10 steps with you here today, but what I am going to point out a few different steps along this roadmap where the public can get involved in policy development here at UNOS. And so just as a frame of reference, we have our 10 steps here, and they all start with an idea. They go through a development process of some sort with our committees. We then put them out for public comment, which is what we're going to talk about today, before they go to our board and are finally implemented by UNOS staff and our members across the country, before we then do analysis on those policies that are implemented. The first place to start might actually be at the end as opposed to the beginning, which is I want to make sure that everybody understands where you can find the policies. And in many ways, this is what the core of our policy development process is, are the policies themselves. Hopefully by now, all of you have seen the OPTN website, which is optn.transplant.hrsa.gov. And if you click on governance at the top of the screen, you can see there's a drop down that will bring you to the policies. They're all in one easy PDF that you can download or read online, and they're organized by different topics within there, such as kidney transplantation versus heart allocation, or safety protocols and things along that nature. And when we're talking about policy development, we're talking mainly about these policies themselves, but you can also see on that drop down that there are bylaws on there, and those bylaws cover kind of two things. One is who we are, so who are the members that are on the board, who are the members on the committees, who are the members that are allowed to do transplantation at the hospitals, and also how we govern. So how do we elect members of our board? How do we develop our policies? How do we recruit new members to do transplantation, and different major processes like that. And so again, that's where you can find the material themselves. And that's the first thing that I would say, is that if you're interested in transplant policy, is to understand what the rules are. And these are where you would find the specific rules that hospitals and members have to comply with as they are allocating organs across the country. The next thing that I would say in terms of where to begin is give us your ideas. We are always looking for new ideas. I like to say that the policy department here at UNOS is here to help guide the committees to solve problems facing the transplant community. And the only way that we can do that is to know what are the issues that are facing the transplant community. So if you have an idea of something that we should be addressing, then please let us know what that is. You can send an email to me. I'm happy to take your emails. You can let Lisa know. I'm sure she'll pass them along to me.
Absolutely.
You can contact any of the members that are on the board or committees, and contact information is on our websites, as well as their staff contact information for all of the different committees on there as well. Or for any proposal that you see up for public comment, also has a staff contact name listed for that. And the reason for that is we're always looking for new ideas. Now, I can't guarantee that every idea is going to turn into a project. I want to be clear about that up front, because we do go through a review and prioritization process, because like any organization, there's finite resources, and we have to pick the most important issues that are facing the transplant community at any given time. But in order for us to do that prioritization process, it's really imperative that we know what the issues are that are facing the community and which issues are most important to the community. So please let us know what your ideas are for those projects that we should be addressing through our policy development process. Now, once we receive these ideas, the committees will work on proposals, for months or even years on some projects. And after a while, they will resolve what they think is the correct solution for the problems that are facing the community. And once they do that, we will put these out for public comment. And those of you that may have worked in regulatory or where other boards and government may be familiar with public comment. But what we're doing when we have public comment is we will prepare a proposal that hasn't yet been adopted by our board of directors or implemented by our staff or the members. But it's a proposal that the committee has researched, they've analyzed the problem, they've analyzed the impact of the solution, and now they want to get feedback from the community. We're looking for two types of feedback. We're looking for what I call sentiment. Do you support this, or do you have concerns with this proposal? And we're also looking for substance. Did we miss something in our analysis? Do you think there's a better way to solve this problem? Well, let us know that substance as well. So the way that we do that public comment is similar in many aspects to how other agencies or entities collect public comment. Is in this modern day, we put it up on a website, and anybody in the world can go there and submit comment on our proposals. Most of them are transplant professionals within the country, but we do receive comments from individuals overseas. We also receive a fair amount of comment from individuals in the public and patients such as yourselves. And it's a very powerful voice when we do receive those. So the way to do that is, again, to go to our OPTN website, and on the same drop down that you saw before under governance, you'll see public comment. When you do that, you'll see a list of proposals. So here those are 4 of the proposals that are out for public comment right now. If you click on any of those, it'll open up another page. When you go to that page, you'll see a few different things on there. One of them is you'll see a link to say read the proposal, and that will give you a PDF that you can download or read online that will give you all the background for the proposal. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more detail in a moment. You'll also see a contact name. So for this particular proposal, Robert Hunter is the analyst that prepared it. So if you have specific questions about it, feel free to reach out to him. They love answering questions and educating individuals about their proposals. And then once you have read the proposal and have formed an opinion or want to submit some comments, you just simply click the blue button to submit a comment, and a form will appear. We ask for some demographic information, such as we'd like to know when patients are submitting comments versus OPO members or surgeons or other individuals. But really what we're looking for is we want to understand your thoughts and perspectives on the proposal. And so it's a little survey that will pop up. There's some open-ended questions and there's some survey-style questions in there that are specific to the proposal, because we want to hear from you about what this proposal means to you. Both do you support or oppose it, but also what, you know, do you have any concerns with the substance of it? Do you think there's a better way that we should be doing this? Do you think there's something that we should have looked at that we didn't look at in the analysis? So we're trying to capture all of that during the public comment process. Once we do receive that information from you, staff will go through the information and they will summarize all the different themes. They will look at the survey style questions and they'll prepare a report for the sponsoring committee to review. And the sponsoring committee may decide that they need to put something back out for public comment. They may decide that they now have some new information and need to make a change. Or they may decide that they didn't explain something very well during public comment and that they still agree with their original recommendation. And all of this will be explained in what we call a briefing paper to our board of directors when the board of directors receives the proposal. But that analysis can't happen unless we receive input from individuals such as yourselves through the public comment process. So it all starts by going to our website to find this information and then clicking on the Submit a Comment button. There's also a few other opportunities for submitting comment during public comment. We have what we refer to as regional meetings, which are in-person meetings around the country that allow anybody to show up and submit comment on proposals. It's mainly transplant professionals that go to those, although there are also some patients and members of the public that go to those as well. And we always appreciate hearing those voices there as well. We also will sometimes have webinars, sort of like this one that we're holding right now, but we'll use it to explain the proposals on a webinar and collect some feedback that way. When we have really complicated proposals, we occasionally will have a patient-specific webinar that won't be as clinical and scientific, but more focused on the impact on patients so that we can receive feedback on that as well. And public comment, really happens 2 times a year. So we're in the middle of public comment right now, usually for about 2 months in the early, or I guess we're now in midwinter here, January, February, March, and then we'll have it again 6 months from now towards the end of summer and into fall. We hold it for 60 days, and these line up with our summer and winter board meetings, which is why we choose when we hold public comment. So I mentioned a moment ago that once you click on any of those proposals, you're going to get a document that you can read about the proposals. And I'll tell you, they can be very lengthy. A typical proposal is going to be in the 20 to 30 page ranges, and sometimes they are much longer than that. So I would tell you that some folks get very intimidated by these, but I really encourage you not to be intimidated by the size, because a lot of it, it can go fairly quickly. But if I were to recommend where to look at it, it's really just a couple places within there. If you want to know what the actual solution is that they're proposing, flip to the end and just read the policy language. Now that's written in more of a legalese, I will tell you, because it's written more like regulations, but that's where you find what the actual proposal is. And all the beginning of it, which is the lengthy part, is the evidence that the committee considered as they were developing the solution, as they were analyzing the problem. And within there, if I were to recommend where you should take a look at this, is focus on really 2 things. Is there enough evidence in there to support the decision that the committee has made at this point? And if you really want to focus in on one area for patients, there's usually a section in there that talks about the impact on specific populations. And that's where you'll get a general understanding of this is how patients are going to be impacted by this. Either this sort of patient will begin getting new access, or we will be addressing this sort of safety concern in the system. And that's usually a pretty good place to start if you're new to reading these proposals, to get a sense as to how the proposal is put together and what we're trying to achieve with the proposal. But the other thing that I would say is remember that every proposal has a point of contact on it. And so their name is on the front page of every proposal, and their contact information is on the website or web page for every proposal. And please feel free to reach out to them. The policy staff love talking with individuals about these proposals, and they're always more than happy to answer questions about them as well. One of the things that I really wanted to get across when I was talking with Lisa about today's conversation is the importance of the patient voice in the policy development process. So as we collect the feedback during public comment, I mentioned that we also collect some demographic information while we're doing that. And in doing so, it allows us to present to the board and the committees differences of opinion based upon different demographics. And so here's just two recent examples that I put up on the screen here that showed where the patient voice was a little bit different than the rest of the voice during public comment. And what I would tell you is that every time the patients have been well organized and had a distinct voice in public comment that was different than other members of the transplant community, the board has stopped and listened to the patient voice and almost always sided with the view of the patients. It's very rare that the board would go counter to the view of the patients when the patients are organized and have a clear voice that's distinct from transplant professionals. So you carry a lot of weight with the decision makers, whether it's on the sponsoring committees or our board of directors when these proposals come forward. These two examples on here are from our last board meeting, and I'll tell you in these situations here, the board sided with the voice of the patients versus some of the transplant professionals, which had a different perspective on these proposals. And I've seen that a few times, or really every time the patients have been well organized during public comment in our policy development process. One of the other things that I want to talk with you about today are other ways that you can get involved in the policy development process. So I love the work that you do with the UNOS ambassadors and working with Lisa, and it really serves as a great stepping stone to serving on our board and on our committees. So I hope that Lisa, and I expect that Lisa's probably talked with you about that in different venues. And so just as a reminder, we have a very large board and committee process. There's roughly 350 seats across all of our committees and our board. And about 110 or so of those come up every year for a new appointments. And this is a great opportunity for individuals to really get involved in the policy development process. It does take more time, obviously, than serving in public comment. But if you want to go to that next level, this is a great opportunity for a lot of individuals. And within this, I would also point out that our standing committees are required to have a patient voice on those. We find it so imperative and so important for the committees to do their work well that our bylaws make this a requirement. And so most of our committees, and certainly all of our standing committees will have a patient voice on those. And again, when the patients speak up and are organized, they are very effective on those committees. We also have what we call a patient kind of council, if you will, that allows patients to come together to talk across all of the committees about the policies that are going on during the year. And we provide support and training to all of the patients serving on our committees and the board to educate them not only on the content, but also on the processes related to policy development. The one thing I would say, and I won't go through every step on this flowchart here, is that it's a year-long process to recruit, appoint, and then orient or onboard new members onto our board and committees. So we are kind of coming towards almost the end, if you will, which is we are finalizing the appointments for the upcoming year. Our appointments start on July 1 of every year, and so we're finalizing those appointments and then moving into onboarding. So we probably wouldn't be able to get new folks on for the upcoming cycle, but if you are interested, please feel free to reach out to me, Lisa, or any of your other contacts at UNOS, and we can talk you through the process of getting onto our board or onto our committees. And that's really a great way as well to get involved in the policy development process. The first step in doing so, besides reaching out to Lisa or myself, is to fill out a bio form on our website. It really just asks for some background information about you. You may have seen this already, but it asks for your background in transplantation. And this allows us to align your skills, talents, and interests with the different opportunities that we have for volunteering across the organization, not only in policy development, but also some other opportunities for volunteering. So in summary, again, I just want to tell you a few things about policy development and how you can get involved in that. The first one is really how important the patient voice is to the policy development process. It's so important that it's written into our bylaws. And when we do see the patient voice organized and active in the policy development process, it's a very powerful voice that usually carries a lot of weight with our board and the sponsoring committees. We do encourage you to submit new ideas through any of the methods that I mentioned. You can email any one of us or pick up the phone. We're always happy to take your call and talk with you about new ideas for policy development. Public comment is available right now. We do have 10 proposals out there. We are actively soliciting comment. Please feel free to visit our website and submit comment in the next few weeks, and I do encourage you to do that. I can tell you that I personally read every single comment that comes in, and I do enjoy reading them. And then finally, if you're interested in serving on our board or any of our committees, please feel free to reach out to any of your contacts here or fill out a bio form on our website, which is also linked on our website under Get Involved, and we will follow up with you about those opportunities. So thank you so much for having me on today. I really do appreciate the invitation, and I'll turn it over to Lisa for questions.
Right. Thanks, James. We really appreciate it. James Alcorn, UNOS Senior Policy Strategist. And before James starts taking your questions, just 2 points that I want to address that thank you, James, for bringing up. We love it. So the bioform that he talks about, all of our committee volunteers do fill out this bioform. And as part of our step forward with our UNOS ambassadors this year in 2019, we will be asking all of our ambassadors to fill out this bioform so we know a little bit more about you, and that way we'll be able to help you to perhaps pinpoint some areas, volunteer opportunities as you're moving forward, not only in this year but through the many years to come after this. Secondarily, that I want to mention are these other volunteer opportunities. Our next webinar that we will be doing next quarter, we'll take a deeper dive into what those committees are and how you can get involved on some of those committees. So look forward to that next webinar that will take a deeper dive into volunteer opportunities. So with that, we thank all of you for participating today, and we'd now like to take your questions for the next few minutes on current public comment that is out there, as well as the bigger picture of policy development for transplantation across the country. Mandy Ames with our public communications team here is monitoring your questions. You can ask a question not verbally, not audibly, because we have all microphones that are silenced right now, but you can ask a question by typing it on the right-hand side of your screen in the questions section. And again, all microphones will remain muted. Mandy, right. I see you over there. Yes, I think she's got some questions.
Yeah. So when James, when you refer to patients, are you referring to donors and/or recipients?
Yeah, we use patients in a broad sense. So we use it to refer to donor families, living donors, candidates that are on the waiting list right now, as well as organ transplant recipients.
That's a great question because we have that discussion a lot internally. It's just what we mean by that. Super question.
No other questions right now, so if y'all have any questions, now is your time to go ahead and type it in that question section, and we'll get it answered for you right away.
And just again, as a reminder, as James had mentioned, there are currently 10 different proposals out there. If you'd like to check it out, we will be sending a link out to everyone so that it's easy access for you to all of our UNOS ambassadors. You can just click it. And as James said, the first thing in terms of public comment is really getting yourself educated so that you can then perhaps weigh in on your thoughts, which I love that. Sentiment and substance. Those are two very important ways to look at your comments and how you structure it. And again, as James had said, that patient voice is a very powerful voice and one that the board really likes to hear. Mandy?
Another question, I've heard that allocation policy of some organs was changing. Do you have any information as to the status of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest change that's going on in organ allocation right now is what we refer to as distribution. And so I like to think of allocation as holding multiple subparts. One part is what you can think of as, say, the medical urgency part, aspect of allocation. So generally speaking, we want to allocate organs to those people that are sickest on the list, and most people would agree that's the right way to allocate organs. The other part of that is also distribution. So within any organ system, there's generally speaking going to be some ties about who is sickest on the list. And so how do we decide where the organs should go? So over the years, the organizations have used this geographic proximity of how we allocate the organs or distribute the organs. And we have entered into a conversation about how we distribute organs with all of the different organ-specific committees. And it's really with a few different goals. One is that there is a difference in access depending upon where you live. So individuals in, say, New York may have different access than individuals in Tennessee. And generally speaking, we want to minimize those differences in access. And so we can account for that in the way that we distribute organs across the country. And the second part of that is generally speaking through broader distribution of organs and a more consistent distribution of those organs. In some places, the distribution was very localized. In other places, it was more distributed across the country. And so we're trying to make that more equal across the country. So we have had those conversations, and the board has approved changes to some of the organ systems. The liver was the most prominent of those, and we are working on changes to the other organ systems right now.
All right, to which email address do we send UNOS suggestions?
You can email me. You're happy to do so. I'm happy to take your emails, or if you want to email Lisa, my email is james.alcorn, ALCORN, @unos.org. And I believe that's on the screen right now with a very old picture of me.
There, yeah, but it's a great picture of you. And mine is there as well, which is lisa.schaffner @unos.org. Michelle Tolliver, michelle.tolliver @unos.org. And Mandy is mandy.ames @unos.org. You're probably seeing the rhythm there. So it's first name followed by a dot, last name @unos.org, and we will get back to you. And all suggestions we'd love to hear. Apparently we're at the end of our list of questions.
Don't have any more right
All
now,
right.
so we'll give you maybe another 30 seconds if you want a quick question, type it in. Would love to answer it.
And just a couple of quick reminders. Public comment is taking place through March the 22nd. So as typical, every time, and James had mentioned we have public comment twice a year, and it typically takes place that most of those comments come in with those few days remaining in the time frame. So go ahead, take a look at what's out there, the 10 different proposals, and go ahead and weigh in maybe a little earlier before that March 22nd deadline. But that is a hard and fast deadline of March the 22nd. And in addition, just a reminder, our February ambassador newsletter will also contain the link to public comment, and that will be in your email box the last week in February. No additional questions, so we appreciate, again, James Alcorn here with UNOS. We so appreciate your time, and of course appreciate all of our ambassadors who are listening and taking part in this educational webinar. On behalf of UNOS, thank you for your time today and all of the volunteer time that you give to United Network for Organ Sharing. Have a terrific rest of your day.